Coach, another couple days in Kansas City. You're now 48 hours or so past the Baylor match. Give us final thoughts on Baylor, and then give us a quick look ahead to Kansas.
Oh, well, it's tournament time, right? So it's not just a matter of how well you play, it's how much attention you pay to the details. The smallest details that can end your run. And there's no like, oh, we'll get them next week. That's what tournament's all about. You know, you got to survive and you got to move forward. So we did that against Baylor. I thought played extremely well in the first half. Certainly the stats show that we were dominant offensively. But heck, they had a great goal that they scored and had a couple of other really good chances they created on their own that we had to battle through. And then as our backline has done all year, they, did their job in the last 15, 20 minutes and made sure we got the win. So I thought Crunch and Molly were outstanding. I thought our attack in the final third had some mobility to it that was exciting to watch, and we're glad to be playing well this time of year.
Obviously, when you get to November, past the conference tournament into the NCAA tournament, you a lot of times get an opponent you've never seen before. How important is it maybe to have a scout of an opponent like Kansas that you haven't seen yet this season heading into the NCAA tournament, and how difficult is it to scout for an opponent like Kansas versus Baylor, who you played last season?
I mean, it's not that difficult to scout. You haven't been on the field with him, but, we know Nate. We know he did a great job at Xavier. We know the kind of team he's building here. He's got a great reputation. We knew Kansas was going to get there, and maybe they're here a little bit early. I don't know, but I know they're here, and they're good. And so we've kept an eye on them throughout the season. You're right, if you don't play somebody, it's hard to totally manage, the game plan, but we've got a pretty flexible team, and they're pretty used to that. When you got veterans like Macy and Elise and those guys leading the team, they keep them calm, and I think we know what we're facing, but until we get on the field with it, both teams will have to have that adjustment factor and deal with players who are better in person than they look on video, or maybe more vulnerable in person than they look on video. You never know until the ball rolls out. So we're glad to have an exciting game with, kind of the host team. Kansas playing in Kansas. Should be a good crowd, and we're playing in an unbelievable facility. Best scenario ever for the Big 12 tournament, and we're proud to be, one of the Final Four.
How do you feel like your team has handled the last week and a half? Obviously, there was a lot to play for. Regular season finale doesn't go your way, but then you're able to bounce back Saturday afternoon against Baylor. How have you seen your team kind of handle the last 10 or 12 days?
Really well, like a mature team should, and we got a lot of young players, so that's a big compliment to them. But the upperclassmen are like, hey, look, we lost one game in 2 years in the Big 12. So we had the highs of last year getting the trophy and the disappointment this year of having to finish second. So I think their response was great. And it was okay if they were miserable for a few days. That's sports. That's life. You got to deal with some misery in those ways, not like real life tragedy misery, but sport life misery. And those feelings are real, and it's fine. It's good for you in some cases. And I think we came back ready to go. We did not mess about in our prep for Baylor. We were ready to win. And, here we are. 2 games to go, hopefully, and with a really tough game right in front of us on Wednesday.
How do you manage recovery, and, maybe does the bench lengthen a little bit when you have, a scenario where you pushed quite a few players, Kate Leibel included, to a 90-minute threshold, maybe when they haven't all year or haven't in a while?
We got one of the best sports performance teams in the country. Our head trainer speaks the language of all of the data that we're gathering, and Katie Munger and DJ are incredible. And between the three of them, and Dr. Mitchell's here, I just think that they've got this down and know what each individual player needs in her recovery, and that's a big key. You can't just throw a blanket over a team, because you're right. Kate Leibel got 90 for the first time in 3 years after her injury. Some people got 30, a bunch of people got 90. But everybody needs something different. And then how do you keep the players like Story Sexton, who played 5 minutes and scored the game winner, how do you keep her fresh? Because you don't need her to get dull, because she comes in 5 minutes and gets the game winner. That's massive. Shows that she was plugged in mentally, but it also shows physiologically she was ready to go. So they got a tough job, but we stay out of the way, and they seem to do it.
And then lastly, kind of how important is it for you and this team that it seems like it can be anybody at any given time in different ways? You mentioned Story stepping up and scoring the game winner, but I think now you've had 9 or 10 different goal scorers. You've got 5 or 6 on multiple goals. How important is that when you get into tournament time, when everybody's trying to take away that one thing you do well, or those 2 things that you do well?
Yeah, we've had the legends, and sometimes our legendary forwards like Kirsten felt a little lonely, and then Ashley came along, and they had a great twosome. And then for Ashley, Alex Kirk came along, and we had a great twosome. And Janine had Katie Heap and a few others who came along. And so it's important that you've got multiple players playing well this time of year, because you're right, everybody's seen you plenty of times, and if they can take away your one weapon, you got problems. So Ash is on 8, and Z's on 9, and Peyton's on 8 or 9. So that's a tremendous triumvirate there. I think Ash is on like 6. But the other 2 right around 10, that's tough. And that's tough to manage, and it's great for us. So we're glad that we've got our top dynamic attackers, playing their best this time of year.
Another training session in the books here in Kansas City. Semifinals between 2nd-seeded Texas Tech and 6th-seeded Kansas. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. at CPKC Stadium. Coach Stone, thank you for your time.
Welcome. Behind us, you want the players running.